Okay, we'll start with the first unit of the data mining. These are the concepts that we will be discussing. Data preparation for knowledge discovery. Now, the first thing, whenever we say data mining, this data mining stands for mining out of the data. So whatever data is there, that we will be mining. This data will be mined in order to gain some knowledge from that particular data. So whenever we are mining the data, firstly, we should have a proper data with us. It's not just like that we have gone somewhere to collect the data, we have collected the data and now we'll analyze that data. Whether that data is analyzable, whether that data is in a position to get analyzed, that also needs to be verified. So whatever analytical tools we are going to use, whether that data justifies those tools, whether those tools can be applied on the available data, that we need to verify. It may happen that some of the data sets for a particular entry there will be some variables missing, so there can be missing data, there can be redundancy, there can be repetition of the data. So all these things should be considered. Whatever requirement for the analysis is there, data should be aligned in such a way that it will be now compatible with that particular analysis. So we will not directly start for the data analysis. What we will do is whatever data we are having, firstly we will prepare that data for the knowledge discovery. So data, once we obtain the data, directly we cannot go for data mining. Firstly we have to clean the data, we have to visualize the data. If there is need of integrating the data, then there has to be data integration. All these things should be done, and then once we are done with all these things, then we are in a position to go for the knowledge discovery in the data. So the first thing, most of the part in the first unit, that is dedicated for this data preparation. Whatever data we are having, that data will be first prepared for the analysis, and once it has been prepared, then we will go for the analysis. Now suppose this is the data set I have downloaded from Kaggle. This is the data regarding credit cards. So if you see, this is the client number, then this is the attrition flag, whether that customer is existing customer or whether that customer is a new customer. Then there is customer age, gender. So many factors are there. And if you select any one column, you can look here, there are 10,128 entries. So subtracting, if we remove this header, then there will be 10,127 entries, and real life data is all the times going to be bulky data. So if such a bulky data is there, suppose for this particular customer who is in the row number 15, suppose his age is missing, we don't have any idea about his age, or whatever application form he has filled in for the application of credit card, on that particular form he has not mentioned his education, so this particular attribute will be missing. So it is not that entire what you can say, entire observation on that particular unit is missing. It's not going to happen all the time. So it may happen that that entry is available, but for a particular variable the data is not available. So how to deal with those? Because these entries, all other variables or attributes on that particular customer are recorded, only on particular one variable the data is not available, on particular one variable or attribute. So we cannot directly delete that entry. If we delete that entry, since suppose on this particular person his marital status is not known, so because here suppose this entry is not available, so here we are having missing data. So if we are having missing data there, then we cannot directly delete this particular column. If we delete this particular column, then because of this reading on marital status, because of this reading, because of unavailability of this reading, whatever we have recorded on other variables, that also we are skipping. So whatever resources we have wasted on this, we have utilized on taking this information on that particular customer, those all resources will now be wasted. And therefore this is not the way to deal with missing observations. If any observation is missing, then there are some scientific tools with which we can tackle those missing observations. So considering all these aspects, firstly we will clean the data, firstly we will store the data in whichever format we want, and then we will have that particular data from the warehouse, and then we'll start actual analysis of the data. So all these things should be given consideration. Directly we cannot jump for the data analysis. So data preparation for knowledge discovery, whatever knowledge discovery we are going to have from the data, before that, firstly these things should be done, these steps should be undertaken. The first step is data understanding. We must understand the data. Now if we are provided with this particular data, and then let us go for the t-test, we will have t-test among this and this, and we will have chi-square test for these two. We cannot go for that. Firstly, we have to understand this data, what this data is, what this particular variable is denoting, what this particular variable is denoting. Once we know what are all these variables, then only we can verify whether these particular, now suppose here x1, x2, x3, like this, these names, headers are like x1, x2, x3, and so on. So here we cannot come up with whether there will be x3 relationship between x3 and x4. We cannot come up with such a logical statements. But once we know that this is a column where number of dependent number of dependent persons on that particular customer are given, and here a credit limit will be given. So higher the higher number of people dependent on the given customer, then he will go for the higher credit limit, because his expenses may be more. So logically it seems that there must be relationship between this, the variable which is in column E and the variable which is in column N. So once we know what that variable denotes, then only we are in a position to say something about their mutual. And this is just introductory. We haven't verified it scientifically. This is just a primary guess that this variable which is in each column, column E, and the variable which is in column N, they might be dependent. This is just initial guess. Such initial guesses can be done only when we are having primary knowledge of the data. So whatever data we are provided with, that data must be understood first. Once we understand that data, then only we will be in a position to go further. And therefore data understanding is the primary step. Unless and until you know what kind of data, what data you are going to analyze, don't go ahead. Firstly try to understand the data. Then once we understand the data, then naturally we will come up with such queries. If this variable is minimized by this much margin, then this variable will be increasing by this much margin. These things will strike to your mind only when you understand the data. And therefore data understanding is the first and foremost thing in data mining. Then once we understand the data, whatever data we are going to get, this data is a real life data. Whatever data we are going to analyze in data mining, that is going to be a real life data. And whenever we are collecting the real life data, then obviously that data is full of errors. There are many kind of errors, there are many kinds of things that are acting upon on that particular data, and therefore that data is not in the purest form. That data is not going to be in the purest form. So the first thing that we have to do with that particular data is we have to clean the data, we have to wash the data. Whatever impurities are there in the data, those must be eradicated, those must be taken out, and whatever pure form of data remains, that data only will be analyzed. Once we clean that particular data, then we should go for data transformation. Then there is some other thing, data discretization, then data visualization. What is imbalanced data and how to deal with that imbalanced data? What are these two data mining processes, CRISP and CIMA? What are these? These are obviously these are short forms. So for what long form this stands for and what is their purpose, how these processes are running, that we will see here. Then concept of training data, testing data, and validation of the model. So whenever we are provided with the data, we will not utilize all of the data for our analysis purpose. We will have that data into two parts. We will train our model based on one larger part of the data, and whatever training our model has got from that particular data, based on that training, based on that trained model, the model will be applied on the portion of the data that we have kept aside, and that data is called as testing data. So in this way we can validate the model. It is not just coming up with a model. Whatever model we are coming up with, that model needs to be tested or validated. So we'll just given data, we'll take just given data and we'll fit a model, and then we will declare that this model is the best model for the given data. We will not do like that. We'll fit a model, then we'll go for a kind of residual analysis, you can say. Whenever we are doing residual analysis, it is nothing but a post-mortem kind of thing. Whatever data, whatever model we have fitted to the given data, whether that fits good to the given data, that also needs to be verified. And once it is good, once it is found to be good, then we can use it in real life or in future data collection or in future sales. Therefore, whatever available data is, that entire data should not be wasted on analysis purpose only. Part of the data should be kept aside, which we'll be using for testing or validation of the proposed model. So we'll study all these things one by one. So the first thing, knowledge discovery in the databases. Now this is a database. Such kind of database is just a bulky collection of data, and this is a ordered thing. Now here, if you see, all these variables have been named. So this is client number, this is attrition flag, customer age. So this is a structured way of storing the data. And this is this Excel file is of 1 MB, but still we will call this data to be a small data. Because in real life, a bulky, suppose if we consider just the data of Airtel users, so there are lakhs of people who are using Airtel as a service provider. So such data sets are always bulky in nature, and therefore they has to be maintained in a structured way. Otherwise, if we just store the data in any arbitrary way, then some other person will not be able to read that particular data. You will not be able to get idea or insights of that particular data. So whatever data is there, that data needs to be structured in a proper way. Suppose a new customer is there, then for that new customer, his client number will be stored here. Now suppose we have prepared a app or software, so whatever field is there, customer number, client number, whatever data is filled in that particular, whatever number data is stored, whatever number is, whatever client ID is entered in that particular field, that will directly pop up here. Whether that customer, there will be a question whether you are existing customer or whether you are a new customer. Whatever answer he chooses, based on that, here a program can be done, and here either it will be attrited customer or existing customer. So likewise, these new entries will be filled in this particular database. So this database will continue. Most of the database are running databases, in the sense whatever new data comes in, that will be automatically stored here, and accordingly whatever model was fitted up to this data, that model will now learn from this new entry also. So model continuously learns whatever we have seen up till now, or in BSc or in the first year. We are given with the data, and based on that data we are coming up with a model. But that model is a stationary model. We just fit a model and declare that this is the model. But now data is varying, data is growing in magnitude. So as data is growing in magnitude, model should not stop from the learning. It should continue the learning process. So as soon as new data comes in, model should revise its knowledge, and accordingly some coefficients may change, or some new variables may pop in, then some new variables may come into the picture in the model. So this way a continuous learning of the model will be there, and for that a structured data has to be there. And whatever data is there, if we store it in a structured form, that particular thing is called as a database. So this is a database. So from this database, we are even if we go to the DMart, and whatever if we purchase anything, and that on that particular counter where billing is done, there all those entries are scanned. All those items that you have purchased, those will be scanned, and those will be stored in the computer. So at the back end, if we generate the file of the commodities that are sold in a particular day, so that file is going to look like this only. So here, say client number will be there, who is the first client, second client, and so on. Here, whether that client has made payment by cash or credit card, because whenever you are paying by cash or card, if you purchase anything, then that person who is there at the billing counter, he firstly asks whether you are going to pay for going to pay with a card or cash. Accordingly, he enters something in that particular software. So that data, whether you have paid by credit card or whether you have paid by cash, that is being stored in the DMart shop. So it is applicable for all the malls. So wherever computerization is there, that entire data is stored, and based on all those data, so that is a database generated by DMart and that is being updated daily. So such databases are there, but what is the use of database? If we just store the data, then that doesn't make sense. Whatever data we have stored, we should come up, whatever data was generated yesterday, based on that, if we come up with some suggestions for today, then that is going to be beneficial for the owner of the company, owner or whoever is client for us. So we have to learn from this data, and based on that learning, we should try to increase our revenue. We should try to increase our profit, or we should try to decrease, we should try to minimize our losses. So there may be many purposes for the data mining. So whenever a large database is there and we are going for the knowledge discovery in that particular data, that is the core part of the data mining. So the term knowledge discovery in databases, or it is also abbreviated as KDD, knowledge discovery in databases, that refers to the broad process of finding knowledge in data. Broad process, it means that this is not just t-test. If we consider t-test, then we just compare this x bar minus mu, calculating z and comparing. This is just a straightforward way, but this is a broad process. So several aspects come into it. So data cleaning is also a part of knowledge discovery, data transformation, data integration, all these are part of this broad process. So this entire process, along with all of its subcomponents, will be named to be a knowledge discovery process in databases. So this refers to a broad process of finding knowledge in data and emphasizes the high level application of particular data mining methods. So it is not just applying t-test or something like that. It is a very high level application of data mining methods. So whatever data mining methods we are going to learn, those will be applied to the data in order to gain some knowledge from the data. Now, in the previous era, before 1600, so in that particular era, people were knowing the science. So suppose they are feeling sick, then they will boil the water and they will drink that boiled water. For what purpose they were doing that? That scientific theoretical knowledge was not there, but they knew that by boiling the water, some microorganisms, whatever microorganisms are there, whatever bacteria are there, those are going to kill, and that is going to help to our immunity. So there were several things that were done in previous era, in ancient era, but those were empirical kind of thing. So that was empirical, you can say empirical era of empirical knowledge. But from this 1600 to 1900 or 1950, or even we can say up to 1980, this was the era when a theoretical basis for science was laid down. So whatever we know, whatever we were doing previously, whatever our ancestors they were knowing, we just come to know the theoretical background of that thing. So entire science, you take physics, mathematics, all those scientific branches, the basis or theoretical basis for all those scientific branches were laid down in this particular era, 1600 to 1980. So this is the era of theoretical science. So this was empirical knowledge or empirical science. So before 1600, we were having empirical science. 1600 to 1980, we were having theoretical science. So much of development was done in theoretical science. But from 1980 onwards, whatever, this is the era when computers were the people started using computers in their daily uses. So from that onward, data was being generated in enormous amounts. So whether we can learn from the data, what patterns. Now every individual customer, I do not have any pattern. I will just go there and I will buy something. Some other customer, irrespective of, independent of what I have purchased, he will go there and he will purchase whatever households he is requiring. So based on these things, every person is individual. Now if we consider say 50 coins, and if we toss those 50 coins, this outcome of first coin is not going to change outcome of the second coin. Suppose this is head. Now whenever we are tossing the second coin, the second coin doesn't depend on this. If we tell that if we tell this particular coin that the outcome of first toss is head, so you have to take accordingly, you have to decide accordingly whether you will give head or toss as a result. That coin will not matter, that coin will not bother about that. He will just, that coin will either give result head or tail with the probabilities that were assigned to it, irrespective of whether this has given head or tail. So every coin will behave independently. Every coin will behave independently. The toss of this 40th coin, that has nothing to do with these remaining tosses. So every coin will behave independently, but still out of these there will be 20 to 30 heads on an average. So standard there will be 25 heads if the coin is unbiased, but even if exactly 25 are not there, they are most likely to be in between 20 to 30. So even if every coin was behaving independently, one coin was nothing to do with other coin, but still collectively they have given 20 to 30 heads. Every coin, if you take any coin, then that coin will not get affected by the toss of any other coin, but still collectively they will show 20 to 30 heads. This is the statistical principle. So every coin will behave independently, but statistically the behavior, collective behavior of all these coins can be modeled using statistics. So if I go in particular mall, if I purchase something, some other person will go there, and independent of what I have bought, he will buy whatever he needs. Every individual is independent, but still as a if we consider the data of entire day, then there will be some pattern visible in that particular data. So even if every individual is independent, but still there will be some pattern in the entire data, and that pattern needs to be unleashed. That pattern needs to be known, and that was done 1980 onwards. So whatever data we are going to get, so this is the data. So such data, whatever data we are going to get, whether we can learn from that particular data. So the first thing, we have experimental learning or empirical science. So that was a real life science, that was a practical science. Then we formulated the basis for that practical science. What was the theory? So before 1600 also, whenever a fruit was ripen on a tree, and that fruit was being disconnected from the plant, it fell down only. It didn't went upside. Before 1600 also it was happening, but the theoretical basis for that was laid down by Newton in this particular era. So likewise, whatever was happening before, and people before 1600, they were already knowing that if a fruit is disconnected from a plant, it is going to fall below only. So they had the practical knowledge, and that's why they will throw the stone and they knew that where it will fall, and they will go there and they will search for the fallen fruit. They will not go upside and they will search for the fruit. It was not happening. It means that they already knew where that fruit is going to fall, and accordingly they had the empirical or experimental knowledge. So that empirical science was very well before 1600, but the theory behind that was laid down in this particular era. And now what we are having is a bulky amount of data. So whether we can learn out of that data, those attempts, those efforts were taken 1980 onwards, and from that we have now what we call it to be a data science. So earlier we had empirical science, then we moved to theoretical science. So whatever we have knew in empirical science, what is the theory behind that empirical science, that we studied here theoretical. Now when we say data science, that data is being generated naturally, or we can say if there is some almighty God who is monitoring this entire universe, then we can say this entire data has been generated by the God. What is the purpose, what is the motivation, what model he used to generate this data? So data can be used as a tool to understand the God's purpose. What is the God's purpose in creating that particular data, or what model he has used? God, it means that we can say nature. I'm not saying that God only. So whoever is monitoring this entire world, whether that monitor, we will call that monitor, let it be nature or let it be God. So whether that monitor had a purpose in creating this particular data, or with what motivation he created that data, we can understand his motivation, we can understand his thoughts based on these particular data. So if today is if today wind is running with this particular speed, say 60 kilometer per second, tomorrow we are having wind speed as say 80 kilometer per second. So that god or monitor must be having some idea that here, suppose today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so god must be having some idea Thursday there will be tsunami like wind, high power winds, the high speed winds will be there. So all of a sudden he will not throw winds, he will not come up with winds, so he will start flowing the winds right from Monday. So based on these things we will understand what is the purpose of the god. So based on these things we may understand that on Thursday winds will be flowing with high speed, say 500 kilometer per minute or per hour, like that. So we can understand the god's purpose, and based on that we can have the provision. So if there are winds coming in a particular location, then we can vacate that particular location, we can move people from there to some other location. So these things can be done once we understand the purpose. So whatever data has been generated, that data can be utilized in order to understand the purpose of nature. According to that, the new the provisions that we have to make for the tomorrow, that we can do. So this is the basics of data science, and this data science plays very important role in day-to-day planning of a household or a country or entire universe as a whole. So whatever data is there, that data is having knowledge in it in an encrypted form. So that decryption has to be done, that unleashment of the knowledge has to be done out of the available data. Once we unleash the knowledge from that particular data, then that knowledge is going to be useful in order to planning for the future. So this is the era of data science from 1980 onwards, and we should feel fortunate that we are in this particular era. So, and moreover we are at the start of this particular era. So if we consider, suppose if we are in say 2120 in this particular year, then people will be saying that in this particular era we had experimental or empirical knowledge 1600 to 1980 we had theoretical science, and 1980 to till now, so 2122 we had data science. And we must feel fortunate that we are here, we are at the start, we are at the beginning of this particular era. So at the beginning there is always scope for laying down new branches of that particular science. So it is just a start. So many areas are there, many stones we need to unturn, there are different horizons which we should go for. So when we are at the start of this knowledge era, there are different doors that we can open for this particular knowledge. So we should feel fortunate for that we are at the start of this particular era. And fortunately or unfortunately, because of this corona and other things, we are getting a bulky data to analyze. If we analyze this wisely, we can come up with certain models which can help humanity on this particular world. So that is the power of data science. So you must be thinking that whenever Newton came up with the idea of gravitational, these are the things that are having direct connection with the real life. But in statistics, we may or may not have direct connection with the real life, but these are the applications which are directly concerned with the real life. So whatever models we are coming up with, those models can be used in order to restrict the growth of number of patients, in order to restrict the number of patients of the corona. Likewise, we can come up with these models which will we can come up with suppose we can tackle some transportation problem with which we can say that these oxygen cylinders should be moved to this location rather than this location, because it will save the cost, and within minimum time it will be transported to the desired location. So accordingly, based on these data, we can help the humanity with some creative inputs, creative knowledge outputs from this particular data. So these are the knowledge discoveries we can have from the available data. So there are different methods based on what kind of data we are having. Based on that, we will come up with different methods in different scenarios to analyze the data, to mine the knowledge from the data. It is of interest to researchers in machine learning. So knowledge discovery in database, this is of interest to researchers who are working in machine learning, pattern recognition. What pattern data is exhibiting, that pattern needs to be recognized in order to plan for the future. The persons who are working with the databases, database management system, DBMS, that you must have heard the word database management system, because data should be always ready to be analyzed. So data should be always stored in such a way that at any point of time it should be readily available for the analysis. Today in database management, in statistics, in artificial intelligence, knowledge acquisition for expert systems, data visualization, even in criminal studies, or in all these aspects, in all these branches, we can say knowledge discovery in database has got attention by the researchers. The unifying goal of KDD process, even if it has been used by different researchers in different areas, the unifying goal, the ultimate goal of this KDD process is to extract knowledge from the data in the context of large databases. So whenever we are having large or bulky databases, what knowledge we can extract from that particular data. So as I have told earlier, data has been generated naturally. We do not try to generate the data. We do daily tasks, and whatever we are doing, as a byproduct, data is being generated. So whatever data, now someone will not say that there are 20 patients of corona and I want it to be 21, so I will get infected. No one will say that I want to have the data on corona and therefore I will get infected so that there will be data. People will not do that like that. We do daily tasks, and as a byproduct, data is being generated, and that is being generated with certain law. That law only God or nature knows. We do not know that law. But if we don't know that law, we will not disregard that law. We will not say that okay, we do not know, we will skip that. We will have a methodology with which at least we can estimate that law. We can have at least a introductory idea of that particular rule by which God has generated the data, and that knowing that particular rule or trying to know that particular rule is nothing but extracting knowledge from the data. It does this by data mining method. There are certain algorithms. So we have set up some algorithms. So we'll just apply those algorithms on the available data sets to extract or identify the knowledge that has been encrypted in the data according to the specifications of measures and thresholds, using a database along with any required pre-processing, subsampling and transformations of the database. So database as it is, it can be analyzed, or if, now suppose there is a bulky data set of COVID patients and we are just interested in knowing whether occurrence of COVID is more in males rather than females. If this is our claim, then we can just focus on these two columns, gender and occurrence of COVID. So accordingly, whether we have to go for an entire database or any sub part of the database, whether we have to do more subsampling, whether we have to pre-process the data, all those things will be done in data mining methods. And once it has been pre-processed, whatever selected data is there, that data can be dealt with algorithm. Algorithm can be applied to that particular data to come up with knowledge. So knowledge discovery process may consist of the following steps. Whenever we say knowledge discovery process, most of the times we confuse it with, suppose we say artificial neural network is the knowledge discovery process. Yes, it is a knowledge discovery process, but it is not the only process. It is not that you are given with the data and directly you will apply ANN, artificial neural network. Firstly, we should have the idea whether that data is in a position to be to get applied by artificial neural network, whether it is in the position where we can apply artificial neural network technique to the given data. So there are different aspects of pre-processing of the data. Those all things will form parts of the or steps in the knowledge discovery process. Only these high-level methods like k-nearest neighbor, artificial neural network, support vector machine, only these things do not form the core part of knowledge discovery process. Those are the prominent steps in the process, no doubt, but these other processes also play their important role in this entire process. So the first step is data cleaning. So whatever data we are having, that data firstly needs to be cleaned, because that data is a real life data, and therefore it is full of noise, it is full of impurities, we can say. So those impurities needs to be removed, then only we will have a clean data. So the first step in knowledge discovery process is data cleaning, in which noise, we will remove the noise as well as inconsistent data. Whatever inconsistent data is there, that also will be removed. So data cleaning is the process of fixing or removing incorrect, corrupted, incorrectly formatted, duplicate, or incomplete data within a data set. So suppose if we have sent someone to bring the data to, suppose a questionnaire has been prepared, and he has gone from person to person and he has collected the data. Now suppose there is some person, now the data set is suppose like this. The person, whatever age of the person is here, suppose that age is say 5 years. Suppose this is the age, that is 5 years. Then education, and in the education column, suppose he has done MCOM. Likewise, if this is the data, then obviously there has been some error in collecting this particular data. So because a person who is 5 years age cannot have education as MCOM, so this data is inconsistent data. Education is inconsistent with the age, or age is inconsistent with the education. So this is the inconsistent data, so we have to deal with this data also. So such entries should be removed, or we should seek further guidance from the person who has collected the data. We should ask him, so what kind of data you have brought? A person with five years has done MCOM, how is it possible? So he will come up, he will say that actually it was 55, but I have done mistake and I have written 5. So whatever justification on his side will be there, that if that justification is valid and if that justification is acceptable, then we will correct this particular observation. Otherwise, if we are having bulky data and if removing this data doesn't makes any problem to the model, any discrepancy in the data, doesn't brings any discrepancy in the data, then we can go for that also. So based on the domain, based on the system what we are dealing with, based on the scenario, we can decide the way in which we are going to tackle these inconsistent or incorrectly formatted data. Now like inconsistent data, incorrectly formatted data is also there. Now suppose we are having a bulky data like this, and suppose while doing formatting, suppose these months on books. Now suppose these months on books, those are written say like 12.1. Suppose someone has given that particular observation as 12.1. So what does it mean? Suppose he has given in years, so 12 years, 12.1 years. Now roughly speaking, when we say 1, 2, 3, then whenever we go to 10, then we take new entry. So suppose here it is 12.1, 12.2, 12.9, and finally when it is 12.10, it becomes 13. So that is what decimal system is. So keeping this in mind, a person might have given his year on that particular with that particular bank, or he may think like that, did 12 years and 1 month, 12 years and 2 months, so finally 12 years and 11 months, 12 years and 12 months. And then when 12 years and 12 months happen, it becomes 13 years. So these two things are different. This is a decimal system. Here 1 to up to 12 we have to go, then only we'll move to the next part. So whether that 12.1, whatever person has given 12.1, whether that is this one or this one. If this is 12.1, then 12 months, so 144 months plus this one, so it must be 145 months. If it is like this 12.1, then this 1 out of 10, how much it is out of 10, that needs to be done. So 1 upon 10 into 12, that calculation needs to be done, and accordingly we will have duration in month. So whenever we are formatting the data in large databases, in when it is stored in the computer, so that formatting also plays important role. How much decimals we have taken after the decimal point, how much digits we have taken after the decimal point. At some points we have taken 1, at some points we have taken 2. Suppose here it is 12.5, and for the, say 12.53, here we have taken say 12.57. So here we will be rounding it to 12.5, and here if we keep as it is, so someone, whoever has collected this particular data, he rounded this particular value to 12.5, or he may also even round it to be 12. And this person will not round these values. Whatever actual value is there, he will store that actual value here. So in the final analysis of the data, we will have these values 12 and 12.57. So here we can see difference between these two values. There is a significant difference between these two values, but actually the difference is only 0.04 units. So the way in which this particular person has formatted this value and the way in which this person has formatted this value, these are different. So such things should be taken care, and accordingly data should be cleaned. So the basic steps to clean the data: remove duplicate or irrelevant observations, fix structural errors like what we have discussed now, filter unwanted outliers. If there are outliers, then we should seek for the guidance whether those outliers are true outliers or whether they have been wrongly recorded. If they are wrongly recorded, then we can remove those. But if there is proper justification for those observations, then those outliers will also give us some information regarding the underlying phenomena. Therefore, we cannot directly delete the outliers. We will just try to seek for the justification for outlier, whether that outlier has been wrongly recorded or whether it is correctly recorded. If it has been wrongly recorded, then we may directly delete the outlier. But if it has been correctly recorded, then we should include it in our model. So these are the different steps of the data mining. So whatever data, suppose this is the place where we have stored the data. So this data will be selected. So this data, what part of that particular data? Now suppose this is the data, and if we want to have analysis on this particular data, and these variables from our analysis point of view are not important. Suppose these things are not important from our analysis point of view. So we just want to have analysis of say gender and attrition flag, whether males are loyal with our company, with our bank, or females are loyal with our bank. So if this is the data, if this is the concern, then we can focus on these things. So accordingly, a part of the data, whatever data we have stored, of that particular data, a particular part can be selected. So we will select the data. So this will be our target data. On this data, we will have the analysis. This is the database, we can say. From the database, whatever required data is there, that required data we have taken out. On this data, we will have some pre-processing. So here we will do pre-processing on the data. In pre-processing, cleaning will be there. There are some other steps, data integration and so on. Those we will also we will see. So once pre-processing has been done, then we will get a pre-processed data, or we can say clean data. This is the clean data. It will not have any inconsistency. It will not have any impurity. It will not have any errors in it. So those data will be there. Errors in the sense structural errors. Statistical errors will always be there. Structural errors, or we can say mistakes won't be there. So once this pre-processed data is available, then based on what model we are going to apply, certain models may require transformation of the data. So you must have seen in regression, there are square root transformations, there are some variance stabilization transformations. So what model you are going to use and what is the requirement of the model, based on that, if there is need of transforming the data. Now suppose if there is male female, gender male female kind of thing, so it can be transformed to 1-0 kind of thing. So such way transformation, or this is just a simple transformation, replace m by 1 and f by 0. Even in some case we can go for log transformation. If data is the range of the data is quite large, and if we want to shrink it within a specified limit, then we can go for the log transformation. We can go for reciprocal or square root transformation. Like that, we can have some certain transformations on the data. Now this is the transformed data, and on this transformed data we will apply the data mining methods. What advanced methods that we are going to study, those will be applied on this transformed data. And once we apply them, we will come up with what pattern that data is exhibiting, what pattern that data is showing. That pattern can be understood here. So from this transformed data, we'll apply on that transformed data, we'll apply some data mining tools. And once we apply those tools, we will come up with certain patterns, just like what we studied in that coin tossing experiment. Every coin will have its own outcome independent of others outcome, but still collectively they will have number of heads. Most of the times they will have number of heads in between 20 to 30 out of total 50 coins. So that is the pattern they have exhibited. So similarly, so every data is going to exhibit certain patterns. Those patterns will be understood by these data mining tools, and those patterns, whatever patterns we are coming up with, whatever patterns will be exhibited, whatever patterns will be unleashed from that particular data, those patterns will be interpreted, those patterns will be evaluated, and based on that we'll gain some knowledge from that particular data, and that knowledge can be used for the future. So this is the journey from data to knowledge. Data to knowledge, there are different stages, those need to be performed. Directly you are having the data, and if you apply data mining tools, if you get some patterns and if you get knowledge, then that knowledge is of no use, because that knowledge may have some it is said that half knowledge is always dangerous, so it will be kind of that. This is not the true knowledge that has been exhibited by the data. Data is prone to have some errors into it, prone to have some mistakes in it, so those things should be removed first. A transformation needs to be done for according to the whichever model you are going to use. Based on all these things, these steps have to be executed, and then only will reach to the knowledge. So starting from data, we'll reach to the knowledge by performing these steps. And while performing these steps, the first and foremost thing is data cleaning. Apart from this data cleaning, we have to go for data integration, data selection, data transformation, data mining, pattern evaluation. All these are the steps that are involved in the knowledge discovery process from the data. So these things, two onwards, we have just seen data cleaning and the entire journey from the data to knowledge. Other steps, data integration onwards, these steps we'll see in the next lecture. We'll stop here only for the today.